Hello, hello everyone. Welcome to episode 20 of Wasted Wanderers podcast. It's been a while since we've been on air. Happy Canada Day to our Canadian viewers and happy 4th of July for our US viewers. So, we are back with three new stories to talk about. So, let's not waste time and let's get started. Abhi, what is first on our docket?
All right, guys, we are gonna start today with why Gen Z is reminiscing the 90s. Technically, they were not even born, or maybe they were born and they were like 2, 3 years old when this happened. So, JD, kick us off.
Sure, yeah. So, the gist of the story is Gen Z is obsessed with the decade they missed. So, what's happening is young adults are flooding social media with a massive new trend. They're asking their parents what they looked like in their 90s, and parents are sharing their photos. And now they're kind of dressing themselves up as their parents. And I saw like photos of even parties that Gen Zs uh, kind of attended where the theme is 90s. So it was really funny to see this because uh, the fashion choices of these people, Gen Zs, are completely dominated by these 30-year-old trends. And it's baffling to see because they haven't lived through that time. We have lived through that time. We are millennials, me and Abhi. So things like baggy jeans, headbands, all these are in right now, so they're flying off shelves. Uh, Young people are also ditching smartphones to shoot video and photos on old film cameras. So all this vintage shooting equipment that is also going up. Thrift stores is very popular with them because thrift stores carry all this old and lightly used clothes. So Gen Z are very interested to this. Um, I think their biggest fashion inspiration is, I would describe it as like scrappy and functional. And it seems to be like a silent protest for today's extreme branding fashion labels. So, these days you see fashion brands like Zara, Balenciaga, all these, either they look too out there, like very bright, very flashy, or you have brands like Uniqlo and Gap that are very understated. So Gen Z, I think, is not able to find that unique style, and I think the 1990s for them kind of represent this lifestyle before there were computers. Um, and I mean, it kind of makes sense, right? Gen Zs grew up completely surrounded by screens and constant online notifications. They view the 90s as peaceful golden era of human connection. They're craving a world where people are actually hanging out offline. I mean, I don't doubt them. I also kind of crave the 90s sometimes. The difference is that me and Abhi, we actually lived through the 90s. So we know what the life was without screen and actually going out and talking to strangers and not being paranoid about who is pinging me all the time. I mean, to be fair, I would give advice to Gen Zs like you can still do this. That just switch off your phone, read a book, go out, take a walk, talk to one random person a day. It doesn't take much. It might be little anxious at first, but keep doing it and you will get comfortable doing it. And I also want to tell Gen Z one more thing, that they are romanticizing a decade that they actually never lived, and they're only focusing on the music, the movies, and the cool aesthetics. But they actually forget, like, there was actually political drama and social unrest during those years. Uh, People weren't so liberal as they are right now. Uh, it was not a good time, to uh, be a minority. Uh, and if something bad happened, there were no cameras or social media to capture them. Like the news that got out had to be very, very big, and it usually spread through word of mouth. So, yeah, it was a different time, but I would love to hear your thoughts, Abhi.
So I want to draw on one or two state sentences in this op-ed piece. So it's claiming that the body of research has found that nostalgic memories are often a source of comfort, guidance, and inspiration. And then nostalgia is counterintuitively a future-oriented endeavor. We draw on it to resolve our dissatisfactions in the present and to move forward with hope and determination. I think I think we are seeing okay, like when we were growing up in the 90s, there would be these reminiscing parties and sessions where everyone would think, okay, how life was in 60s and 70s and 50s and so on and so forth, right? I think that's just what Gen Z is feeling like today. What was life like in the 90s? And people like JD and I who lived through the 90s quite literally, um, we actually know exactly what life was like, and there was some positives for sure, and there were some negatives as well. Actually, I remember when growing up, at least, you know, through the 90s, early 2000s, when I was in seventh grade, I used to have a small regular Nokia phone which had a color screen. It would make phone calls, and it would have some very addictive games, and you could play like Snake, and there was like this ball bouncing game and everything. So that was pretty good. But what used to happen is we had no way to listen to music on these phones. So there was a barrage of products that was available in this space. There was a Walkman, which is actually it's not. Uh, Walkman is a Sony product, but basically it was a cassette tape player where you could put in a cassette into a box, it would play it, and you would have wired headphones. And then eventually cassettes started becoming old, so we had something called Discmans, which everyone just adopted from Walkmans. And you could put a CD inside it and you would play. And there was a sleuth of brands, mostly from Japan, like your Panasonics, your Sonys, your Sanyos, and everything. And then, of course, those days, Chinese manufacturing was just starting off, so you would get a lot of these cheaper Chinese brands. They would be priced like half of the Japanese ones, but they would almost always run half the time as well. So we used to think at that time that okay, if all of this could be in one device, how cool would it be? And then the iPod Touch was a revolution in that space because it was kind of getting to that point, and then of course iPhone came and blew everything up. But I think every generation wishes, has some aspirations, some idea of a simpler future, and then some nostalgia of a gone by age when they start getting exhausted of their own times. Like, I think Gen Z's biggest struggle is the monochromatic lives that they have to lead. You go into these condos, apartments, houses, everything has this one monochrome look, like either whites, blacks with like shades of brown. Your cars are typically in your gray colors and white color and black color, and everything basically has started looking the same from product to product. The the pace of innovation is so fast that everything starts looking the same because eventually there is always a convergence. Same with AI models, right? Okay, Claude is the best at programming, but if you told Claude to go summarize a document, do you think it couldn't do it? Um, okay, if you had to actually figure out if Gemini or ChatGPT, which one is better at producing images, you could run some very crazy benchmarks and arrive at an answer. but for 80% of all the AI work, they will basically be the same. And that's what's happening, and that's exactly what happened eventually in the 90s as well. All the Discmans, even though their their covers were different, they literally had the same functionality throughout. And then the same thing happened with smartphones. Um, and now smartphones are basically across three brands, right? Your Apple, Samsung, and Google. I think these three basically have the smartphone capture. What Gen Z is probably missing is they have an intuitive understanding of, okay, every screen we look at is trying to hook us in. And the one thing and the one promise we grew up with is more technology comes, our lives will become easier. And none of that has really materialized. Certain tasks have become easier, but overall, since those tasks have become easier, we are supposed to do more tasks. Overall, life itself has not become easier. It's in fact become more difficult. It's more difficult to buy a house. Gen Z probably will not even be able to buy a house, or maybe some of the more aspirant Gen Zs would, but the Gen Alphas, Betas, I don't know what the current one is. Forget it, right? So overall, yeah, certain tasks have become easier. Like JD is sitting in the Bay Area. I'm sitting in Vancouver, and we are presenting live to all you guys. So that's definitely a plus. But we also have full time jobs which we have to focus on. So sometimes when we show up here, we are exhausted. And it's a obviously is it everyone's choice to be on YouTube? Of course, but ultimately a lot of YouTube starts because someone is exhausted of a corporate job. They might want to branch out, or they might want to just have a change in life because everything else they do is so monochromatic, and we as millennials see that as well. So I think we go back to, okay, the grass always feels greener on the other side. Is it actually greener or not? um, I don't think there is a right answer to that. All I'll say is, okay, there were good times. Like you could listen to good high quality music. So cassette tape is near analog anyways, and then your disc, your CDs actually had like high fidelity music coming on them. So those were the better things about it. But especially JD and I, we grew up in India. We had to literally pay so much money to even do like a call, even within like different cities in India, because India was obviously a little behind in technology adoption. And if you had to make an international call, it was another, like it was a task. And if our relatives staying in North America, they would want to call us in India, they would have these like physical cards, which they would have to keep recharging so that they could talk to us and whatnot. There was nothing like WhatsApp, obviously. VoIP was not even invented. So there were pros and there were cons. Now it was definitely easier to stay away from screens because our phones had pretty shitty screens. But as JD was mentioning, there are ways to go around this. Um, and if you want something tangible, you can try out something like Graphene OS. If you are an Android user, like it's an OS designed to make your phone look bland, so that you're not constantly addicted to it. I would say if you can take up like a yoga practice or something, that would also help you. But yeah, that's my thoughts on this one. So I guess let's go to the next one for today. Jersey Mike's IPO illustrates how bad the AI hype has become. So, guys, here is our latest AI company on the block. I think about a month back, there was a shoe company that decided to turn into an AI company, and then their stock just skyrocketed. I forgot what was it called. JD, do you remember?
All birds.
Allbirds. Yeah, I have no idea what they're doing these days, because I think they wanted to start renting out compute space to other companies. But too bad for Allbirds. Meta is also trying to do that. They will never be able to match Meta. They'll never be able to match Colossus One. God. They're literally two buyers, and everyone's trying to sell to them because everyone has an overcapacity. I'm just waiting for like memory prices to start going down again. Anyway, actually, this article is it's a little like it's almost like cheeky because this company just went public. They make subs. Um, for anyone in the US, I actually hadn't even heard of this company till I started reading this story. But for those who don't know, if this is very similar to Jimmy John's. Um, and for those who may not even know what Jimmy John's is, okay, then think of it as a Subway but only with cold cut meats. And this company has decided to go public, and they have mentioned AI like 21 times in their S1 filing. To be fair, if you look at their S1 document, it's all pictures of sandwiches and food and their plates laid out very well. But they do mention AI as a risk, and I think AI as a risk is true for all these franchise companies because, um, well, these AI chatbots don't work. The McDonald's one was a massive failure. The Starbucks one, they were trying to use AI to start capturing inventory, and it would just like randomly skip items. So I mean, obviously, I think they're retracting that. If hopefully they have already retracted that. Like I would feel so bad if such nonsense is still in use. Um, Look, let's be real. AI is a tool. It can, if you prompt it correctly, it will give you useful information. If you expect it to be a pill that will solve all your problems, and it will, it's not your fast track to success. Not by any means, at least not in its current form. And I would argue it's not going to get there anytime soon either. All the news about 2030, half jobs are gone, 2027, 2028, bullshit. Chat GPT free version is now showing ads. I don't know if any of you have seen it. I actually, I was trying to, I got one ad and then I forgot that. So I'll take a screenshot and put it if I can get it. Um, Chat GPT free version is now showing ads. As soon as you add a prompt, it'll give you an ad, right? At the end of it. And I asked the chatbot, why are you showing ads? It's like, oh, I'm not one responsible. The company's adding it behind and it gave me that bullshit politically correct answer. But basically, for all the like it, I can only see this as a very interesting time for AI because Sam Altman, I think last year or maybe even early this year, had mentioned that ads would be the last thing they would try to make OpenAI or ChatGPT profitable. And they have already gotten there. So AI is not, basically, there is no credible business model coming out of it. The closest is Anthropic, and correct me if I'm wrong, JD, but I think they're still losing money, right?
Yeah, nobody's in AI is making money except Nvidia.
Yeah. Klarna fired a bunch of people. Now they tried to hire them back. So Jersey Mike's AI fears are about, and the story mentions this, right? Their AI fears are about as useful as some as one of these stores getting hit by lightning, right? They have mentioned AI in their S1 to come across as okay, we are on the cutting edge of technology, we are using the best we can. Do they really need to use it? No. Is it even there so that they can use it with 100% confidence? No. Now, arguably, no technology is 100%, but okay, 9/11 or 11 nines, can they use it with that much confidence? No. I think if you guys want to check out some good good videos on this, you can check out House of L AI. We are not sponsored by her or anything. It's just a YouTube channel that popped up on my feed, and now I listen to her as regularly as I can. She has a PhD in AI, so more than even both of us, she knows what she's talking about. And she did a whole video on how this whole Google summaries are basically, they are wrong about 5 to 10% of the time, which translates to like millions of queries, and then Gemini just hallucinating on them. So AI output must be used with a lot of caution. I would argue in the one space that it excels, especially if you're using Claude, is programming. That doesn't mean software engineers get replaced. Software engineers don't just program, they they deal with stakeholders, they deal with project management, they make the product come together by writing code, which is a part of their job. So one part of their jobs has become easier for sure. I think AI does produce phenomenal code, especially if you're doing these side projects and you just want something up and running quickly. It works. I can't deny that. But yeah, a lot of this is just a lot of this is just hype. JD, what do you think?
Yeah, I feel like Jersey Mike billboard should be Jersey Mike. This sandwich company is pretending to be AI. So I want to talk about two things. One is, yeah, this AI evaluation hype, and the second is actually like their history and their financial rise and things like that. So what Jersey Mike just did is filed the paperwork to go to stock market, go to public, and as Abhi said, the AI has been mentioned 21 times. They are leaning heavily into tech buzzwords to grab Wall Street's attention, but I don't blame them because everybody's doing the same thing right now. Like the filing states, they use AI to optimize their daily business operations. They want investors to view them as a modern tech platform, but they're not a tech platform. They're a franchisee food business establishment. I think this is just for them to get ahead of the market and raise as much money as possible, which is the point of an IPO, right? That's their true purpose. So they are banking on the fact that investors are completely obsessed with tech keywords. Regular food companies know by adding AI to their filing can drastically boost their financial valuation. So it just shows exactly how intense the current market hype has become. There are a few outliers. Obviously, we know SpaceX, Anthropic, OpenAI. They are going public and they are actually AI companies. But everything else, I don't think so. They deserve the hype. I mean, if I want to talk about Jersey Mike, how I remember Jersey Mike, because I've actually used to eat there. I used to go there with my team back when I was based in Chicago. And at that time, I thought it was probably like some local owned deli or something because that was the vibe. But no, it was a franchise. So I think it is a good franchise model, fresh ingredients, quick serving during lunchtime. But adding AI to this, I don't think is a very good thing to do. Like having AI for the sake of AI is not good. I feel have a great product and then add AI to automate things in your product, not the other way around. So next I want to talk about like the history of this. So from what I've read, like the company was started in 1971. So the founder Peter Cancro started to work on the original sub shop when he was just 14 years old. So that was allowed back then. So Gen Zs take note. Just 4 years later, at age 17, he raised enough money to buy the entire place. And then They were stable for a while, and then the same store sales shot up by 50% between 2020 and 2025. Last year alone, total sales reached $4.3 billion gross sales. So that's pretty good. But then what happens with successful businesses is private equity comes in and scoops them up. So that's what happened here. Like Blackstone bought them out, a majority stake, and I think they valued it at $8 billion at that time. They have nearly 3,300 locations, making them the second largest uh, subway style chain in America. This is something I didn't know after Subway. I thought there would be more, but maybe not. Um, but I think this is a great. This is a good test for major food related businesses out there right now, because it's not a good time to be in the food business. Inflation and low consumer sentiment is killing the industry. And Jersey Mike is actually the one that has a good business model. It's one of the better ones. Like, if you look at McDonald's and all these fast food places, they are not doing good at all. McDonald's has increased their prices so much. The other day, I was uh, in In and Out Burger with my cousin, and I looked at the In and Out pricing. They were, I think, 50 cent to a dollar more than McDonald's. That's it. And their value add is they make everything from scratch there. Nothing is frozen. So it's insane how, because of inflation and fuel prices, all these big chains are feeling the pain, especially McDonald's, and they have to raise their prices, and now people can't afford them. So now they're going to back to these mom and pop food establishments, because they have their own local supply chain that doesn't involve having huge 18 wheeler trucks to carry around frozen goods. So I think something is broken with the fast food model, but I guess that's something we can talk about some other time. Yeah, so we can move on.
Yes, let's do that. Only time will tell how much do subs equate to AI. But for now, let's reflect on, since Canada Day and I guess US Independence Day, they basically happen in the same week all the time. This is basically more related to US 250 than Canada, but this is an opinion piece, and we try not to do opinion pieces, but this one was interesting enough for us to have an opinion on the opinion piece as well. So it's basically claiming that US can try and be, US has always been called a melting pot of different cultures, different ethnicities, different types of people, and maybe to appreciate the blessings of liberty, it can try something which is more like a potluck. Now, till recently, there was another term that was used instead of potluck. It was called a salad bowl. And again, I'm going to plug in another podcast shamelessly. I mean, not again, don't know the person personally and not sponsored, but Charvak podcast, Kushal Mehra, he did an episode on this. In fact, a couple of years at this point, a couple of years ago at this point, he made a video on the. He did a comparison between a melting pot and a salad bowl, essentially, um, and you guys can go watch that. My take on this is, yeah, a potluck for a society that's largely, or I guess pretty much completely built by immigrants, um, it doesn't work. Because what a potluck does is you are allowed to be completely different. You know, you have like entirely different identities, entirely different sets of values, and you're somehow trying to mesh into a society that itself has been constructed. I mean, maybe that itself has been constructed ground up, right? It's not a civilization that's been going on for 5,000 years. So as time passes, what happens is in societies there are some non-negotiables that take root, and everyone, because of continuity, just ends up having an understanding and agreeing to those principles. So that's how civilizational states function. It's a set of people that have been living in one place for so long that they just have internalized a set of common principles, and they all just sort of abide by them unconsciously, pretty much, or subconsciously, for whatever. Now, in a society that's 200, a country that is 250 years old, and same goes for Canada, I guess, 150 odd years old, um, there has to be a common denominator that has to be, you know, that everyone has to agree to be a part of that society. A melting pot ensures that all the flavors that every ethnicity, culture is bringing blends enough with everything else so that it can become a functioning whole. So essentially, even if you end up putting some sort of a bitter vegetable in a pot of, if it's all melted and all these flavors have come together, then the bitterness will be balanced by the sweetness, and there will be a bunch of flavors balancing each other. That need not necessarily happen in a potluck or in a salad bowl, because you may just get a part of that salad which has all the bitter tasting stuff, and all the sweet or the tangy stuff is sitting on the other side of the salad. It's still a valid salad, it's just not mixed that well. But the mixing part of it is not a part of the recipe. You have to do it at the end when everything is put together, right? In a melting pot, that happens as a part of the cooking process. We have recently seen cases in Europe where some sort of a salad bowl approach was tried in many countries, and they're all rolling back their policies in crazy ways. In fact, Denmark, which was considered like the black sheep and all these on all these in all this policy making, now you have parties all over Europe, politicians, leaders all over Europe quoting the Denmark model. Sweden has quoted it. Italy has quoted it. Germany has quoted it. The only one that hasn't, at least to my knowledge, has not said anything in public is France. And I don't want to get into the specifics here, but all I'm saying is there is, I think, enough evidence to show that a potluck style society structure uh, is almost impossible to get to work. At least, at least in the stage that the global society is currently, you need a melting pot. You need a set of non-negotiables that everyone must agree to, and then they can have their own personal lives, their different setups in their houses and everything. But yeah, that's what I think about this. JD, what do you think?
Yeah, I think the gist of this opinion piece is stop calling America a melting pot. And I like this piece because, first of all, it's co written by two completely opposite thought leaders. So, one is a conservative Republican governor from a rural farm, Utah, and another is a writer, is a center left Muslim prophet leader from a major city, right? So they're writing this together. And what they're saying is that people often call America a massive melting pot. but they are arguing that this is actually a bad description. A melting pot forces everybody to mix together until they lose their own unique flavors and become completely uniform. And that is not a good way to view things, as Abhi said, like in Europe. And also, I would say sometimes in Canada, what happens is there's like forced mixing of cultures or forced isolation of cultures, both of which are not good. You know, each culture brings in something very unique and interesting to the country, and we should view our country as a giant neighborhood potluck instead. So each person brings their own unique dishes and their own family traditions, and this setup celebrates the deep differences instead of trying to erase them, which is the point here. And that is the basic metaphor that is carried on in the whole essay. Like, sitting down on a dinner table changes how we interact with strangers. People naturally start asking friendly questions about unfamiliar food and swapping their favorite recipes. This act helps neighbors discover the new things that can be absolutely unique, delicious, interesting. And another point I think they make is that our modern public life is completely dominated by phone screens and online outrage. And gathering for a local meal forces everybody to sit down and talk face to face. It stops people from immediately asking toxic questions about politics and things like that. And maybe start with questions about what connects them. Uh, I mean, this is conversation one on one, but you'd be surprised how many people don't know about this. And so, one quarter of Americans actually know the people living next door to them, which is not good. I mean, the US and kind of Canada are like suburban countries. Most of the people live in suburban areas. So the authors are officially challenging everybody to host or attend a potluck this summer. And this is the long weekend, so I would, yeah, advise everybody to do that. You just go out, meet your neighbors, um, struck up a conversation with someone new. So the same advice we're giving to Gen Zs, we're giving to everybody in general. And yeah, you know, all great change in country begins at the dinner table. That's the gist. Yeah, nothing much to add here. I don't know about you, Abhi.
Yeah, I think as long as society agrees on a set of principles to agree to, I guess the wording itself is not so important. Of course, loneliness is a pandemic that we are dealing with, and we need to um, heat a way around it. So whether it's a potluck or like a bros beer party or something along those lines, anything goes as long as physical social interaction can increase. Of course, it has to be consensual. I don't want anyone to misinterpret that. But yeah, I mean, in that sense, I guess the story is fine. But yeah, when I read the title itself, a potluck, not a melting pot, I'm like, uh, I get the distinction, but I also feel this can lead to a bit of a slippery slope where if there is no consensus, um, then it leads to a lot of division, and a lot of societies are already facing division across political lines, across religious lines, whatnot. So the times we are going through, it might just be better to stay with established and tried and tested principles rather than trying out something new. And once things settle down a bit more, then we can maybe get more adventurous. But yeah, so guys, that's our show for today. And sorry about the small hiatus. Um, yeah, we were both sort of sorting out some things in our lives, and we had to, just get around to getting into a regular cadence. But yeah, enjoy. Happy belated Canada Day to everyone, and then happy 4th of July to everyone as well. And see you guys next week. Bye.
Yeah. Thanks for listening to us, guys. Happy long weekend and take care. Bye.